America, wake up. The grocery aisles you depend on are about to change forever. From everyday staples to your favorite comfort foods, 20 essential grocery items are at risk of vanishing by next month. Climate chaos, supply chain disasters, and skyrocketing demand are driving these shortages, and the clock is ticking. If you don't act now, you might find yourself staring at empty shelves and skyrocketing prices. Stick around, because in this video, we'll reveal the critical items you need to stock up on before it's too late. 20. Coffee, the lifeblood of mornings for millions, is teetering on the edge of scarcity. The problem lies in the two most popular coffee varieties, Arabica and Robusta. Arabica, which accounts for about 60% of the world's coffee, thrives in high-altitude tropical climates. However, these regions, such as Brazil and Colombia, are being hammered by climate change. Rising temperatures, prolonged droughts, and erratic rainfall patterns are wreaking havoc on coffee plantations. For instance, Brazil, responsible for nearly 40% of global coffee production, saw its output drop by 30% in 2024 due to extreme weather events. Compounding the issue is a surge in coffee leaf rust, a fungal disease that has devastated crops in Central America. Farmers are also grappling with skyrocketing costs of fertilizers, water, and labor. The global demand for coffee, meanwhile, has grown by 4.5% annually, driven by emerging markets like China and India. This growing gap between supply and demand is pushing prices through the roof. In 2024, the average cost of a pound of Arabica coffee climbed to $2.40, a 15% increase from the previous year. The shipping and logistics crisis isn't helping either. With major ports facing bottlenecks and rising transportation costs, coffee delivery times have stretched, leaving shelves emptier than usual. If these trends persist, your morning cup of joe could become a rare and costly indulgence. Stocking up on whole beans or pre-ground coffee might be a wise move now, as experts warn that 2025 could see an even sharper decline in coffee availability. 19. Canned soups, the quick, comforting solution for busy days, are facing a looming crisis. The root of the problem lies in the ingredients. Vegetables like carrots, celery, and tomatoes are experiencing supply shortages due to extreme weather conditions. California, the U.S.'s agricultural hub, suffered its worst drought in decades, leading to a 20% decrease in the harvest of key vegetables used in soups. This shortage has ripple effects across the canned goods industry. Adding to this is the aluminum can crisis. Aluminum prices have surged by over 30% in 2024, primarily due to global supply chain disruptions and increased demand from other industries. Factories producing cans are struggling with worker shortages and increased energy costs, which are further slowing production. Campbell's, a leading soup manufacturer, recently announced a 12% reduction in its production capacity due to these challenges. Meanwhile, consumer demand for shelf-stable foods remains high as inflation and economic uncertainty drive people to stockpile essentials. This mismatch between supply and demand has already led to higher prices, with the average cost of canned soup increasing by 18% in the past year alone. If you're a fan of chicken noodle soup or creamy tomato bisque, consider stocking up now before shelves are hit by another wave of shortages. 18. Bananas, a staple in diets worldwide, are under siege from multiple fronts. The most popular variety, the Cavendish banana, which accounts for 99% of global banana exports, is highly vulnerable to Panama disease, a fungal infection sweeping through plantations in Latin America and Asia. In 2024, Panama disease caused a 40% loss in banana crops in the Philippines, one of the top producers. Climate change is adding fuel to the fire. Bananas require stable temperatures and consistent rainfall, but key growing regions like Ecuador and Colombia are experiencing prolonged droughts and erratic weather patterns. This has reduced yields and increased costs for farmers, who now need to invest in expensive disease-resistant crops and irrigation systems. Transportation challenges are also a factor. Bananas are highly perishable and require specialized cold storage during shipping. Rising fuel prices and labor shortages have made this process more expensive and less reliable. As a result, banana prices in the U.S. have increased by 20% over the past year, and experts warn that further price hikes are inevitable. With all these challenges, bananas could become a luxury item rather than an affordable snack. If they're a regular part of your diet, consider freezing a few bunches or exploring alternative fruits before the shortages worsen. 17. Butter, a cornerstone of countless recipes and the heart of many holiday traditions, is facing a crisis that could soon make it a rare luxury. The U.S., one of the largest producers and consumers of butter, is grappling with a supply chain disaster rooted in both agricultural and economic turmoil. The issue begins with dairy cows. Milk production in 2024 fell by over 5% nationwide due to extreme heat waves in the Midwest and Southwest. Cows produce less milk when under heat stress, and the rising temperatures are making this a recurring nightmare. Feed prices for dairy farmers have also skyrocketed, with corn and soybean prices up nearly 30% compared to 2023. Many small dairy farms are shutting down altogether, unable to keep up with these costs. Meanwhile, processing facilities are experiencing labor shortages and higher operational expenses, which have driven up production costs for butter. In fact, the price of a pound of butter in the U.S. jumped to $5.50 in late 2024, a staggering 25% increase in just 1 year. Adding to the pressure, global demand for butter is surging as countries like China and India adopt more Western-style diets. Exports of U.S. butter have grown by 20% in the past year alone, further tightening domestic supplies. For the American consumer, this means fewer tubs of butter on the shelves and significantly higher prices. If you love baking or simply can't imagine breakfast without a pat of butter, now is the time to stock up. The coming months could see this kitchen staple becoming a rare and costly indulgence. 16. Oranges and orange juice, long celebrated as a breakfast staple in the U.S., are on the brink of disappearing from store shelves. The citrus industry is under siege from a perfect storm of challenges, starting with a devastating disease known as citrus greening. This bacterial infection, spread by an invasive insect called the Asian citrus psyllid, has wiped out over 80% of Florida's orange groves over the past decade. In 2024, Florida's orange production hit its lowest point since the Great Depression, with a decline of nearly 25% compared to the previous year. Climate change is exacerbating the problem. Hurricanes, record-breaking heat waves, and prolonged droughts have battered the few remaining groves, further reducing yields. California, another major citrus producer, is also struggling with water restrictions and rising temperatures, leaving the industry in shambles. The impact on consumers is already apparent. Orange juice prices soared by 45% in 2024, with a gallon now averaging over $8 in many U.S. cities. Imports from Brazil, the world's largest orange juice exporter, are helping to fill the gap. But even Brazil is experiencing challenges due to erratic weather patterns and labor shortages. For Americans who start their day with a glass of orange juice, this crisis is a wake-up call. Experts predict that if these trends continue, orange juice could become a luxury item, reserved for special occasions rather than an everyday essential. Stock up now while you can still afford it. Your morning ritual may never be the same. 15. Eggs, a symbol of breakfast in America, are under siege from a convergence of catastrophic issues that could render them scarce and unaffordable. The first major factor is avian influenza, which swept through poultry farms across the U.S. in 2024, killing tens of millions of chickens. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, reported that over 60 million birds were culled last year alone, marking one of the most devastating outbreaks in history. This has directly reduced the number of laying hens, slashing egg production by nearly 20%. Adding fuel to the fire are skyrocketing feed costs. Corn and soy, the primary components of chicken feed, saw price hikes of 30% due to global grain shortages and droughts in the Midwest. Farmers are also grappling with rising labor and energy costs, leaving them with no choice but to pass these expenses on to consumers. By the end of 2024, the average price for a dozen eggs hit a record $6.50, with some regions seeing prices soar even higher. Climate change is another critical factor. Heat waves and extreme weather events have disrupted the delicate conditions needed for hens to lay eggs consistently, further compounding the issue. The U.S. egg industry, which has long been a symbol of agricultural efficiency, is now struggling to meet demand. For American households, the prospect of egg shortages isn't just a matter of inconvenience, it's a food security issue. Eggs are a versatile and affordable source of protein, and their disappearance from the breakfast table would leave many scrambling for alternatives. Stock up now, because experts warn that the next few months could see prices rise even further, or worse, shelves completely emptied of this iconic staple. 14. Packaged snacks, think chips, cookies, and granola bars, may soon become a rarity in American pantries, and the reasons are far more unsettling than you might think. The snack industry relies heavily on ingredients like wheat, corn, and vegetable oils, all of which are facing unprecedented shortages. In 2024, extreme droughts and floods wreaked havoc on key agricultural regions, leading to a 15% drop in global wheat production and a 20% decline in corn yields. Vegetable oil production, particularly palm oil, has also been hit hard, with prices rising by over 35% due to reduced harvests in Southeast Asia. Supply chain disruptions have created a logistical nightmare for snack manufacturers. The cost of packaging materials like plastic and cardboard has surged by 25%, while labor shortages in factories have slowed production lines to a crawl. Some companies like Mondelez and PepsiCo have already announced reductions in output for popular snacks like Oreos and Lay's chips. Adding to the crisis is a growing consumer demand for snacks as inflation pushes Americans to seek out affordable, shelf-stable comfort foods. This demand spike, combined with dwindling supplies, has driven snack prices up by 20% on average in 2024, with some premium products seeing price hikes of over 50%. For U.S. consumers, the looming snack shortage isn't just about higher prices. It's about the disappearance of everyday conveniences that have long been taken for granted. Imagine walking into a grocery store and finding the chip aisle bare, or your favorite granola bar completely out of stock. If packaged snacks are a staple in your household, it might be time to stock up. Experts warn that by next month, these beloved comfort foods could become a thing of the past. 13. Chicken, the most consumed meat in the United States, is on the brink of becoming a scarce and expensive commodity. The crisis begins with the poultry industry's ongoing battle against avian influenza, which decimated flocks in 2024. Over 60 million chickens were culled last year to contain the spread of this highly contagious virus, according to USDA data. This has not only reduced the availability of chicken meat, but has also created a ripple effect across the entire supply chain. Rising feed costs are exacerbating the problem. Corn and soy, the primary feed for chickens, saw price increases of over 30% in 2024 due to droughts and geopolitical tensions affecting global grain exports. With farmers struggling to afford these skyrocketing costs, many are scaling back production or exiting the industry altogether. This means fewer chickens are being raised, driving up prices for consumers. In December 2024, the average cost of a pound of chicken reached $6.30, a 25% increase from the previous year. Climate change is also playing a significant role. Heat waves and extreme weather events have disrupted farming operations, causing higher mortality rates among chickens and reducing overall yields. Additionally, labor shortages in poultry processing plants, which were already strained during the COVID-19 pandemic, continue to hamper the industry's ability to meet demand. The impact on American households is profound. Chicken has long been considered a relatively affordable and versatile protein, relied upon by millions for everything from weeknight dinners to fast food favorites like nuggets and wings. But with supplies dwindling and prices soaring, many families may be forced to seek alternatives or drastically cut back on their consumption. If chicken is a staple in your kitchen, experts urge you to act now. Stock up on frozen options or explore alternative proteins, because by next month, this quintessential American favorite could be harder to find or simply too expensive for the average grocery budget. The dinner table, as you know it, might be about to change dramatically. 12. Potatoes, the backbone of countless American meals, from mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving to crispy French fries, are facing a dire shortage that could soon impact your dinner plate. The root of the problem lies in catastrophic weather conditions that have decimated crops across major growing regions. In 2024, Idaho, the leading U.S. potato producer, experienced a historic drought and extreme heat, which reduced yields by 30%, according to the Idaho Potato Commission. But it's not just the weather. The rising cost of fertilizers, up nearly 45% in 2024, has made potato farming more expensive than ever. Many small-scale farmers are finding it impossible to sustain their operations, leading to widespread closures and reduced production capacity. Additionally, transportation disruptions caused by fuel price hikes and ongoing driver shortages have made it more difficult and costly to distribute potatoes across the country. The impact is already visible in supermarkets. Prices for potatoes and potato-based products like chips and frozen fries have skyrocketed by 20% to 30% in the past year alone. Some fast food chains have even begun rationing fries or substituting menu items due to supply constraints. What does this mean for American households? Potatoes, long considered a budget-friendly and versatile food, are quickly becoming a luxury. If these trends persist, you might find yourself paying exorbitant prices, or not finding them at all. Experts are warning consumers to stock up on long-lasting potato products, like dehydrated or frozen options, while they're still available. The beloved spud, a staple of comfort food across the nation, could be vanishing from your table sooner than you think. 11. Apples, synonymous with American culture and traditions, from apple pies to school lunches, are facing a crisis that could see them disappearing from grocery store shelves. Climate change is striking at the heart of apple production, with erratic weather patterns wreaking havoc on orchards in key regions like Washington, Michigan, and New York. In 2024, Washington State, responsible for nearly 65% of U.S. apple production, experienced an unusually cold spring, followed by extreme summer heat, reducing harvests by 20%. Adding to the woes is a growing labor shortage. Harvesting apples is labor-intensive, and many growers are struggling to find enough workers to pick their crops. The labor shortage has driven up costs for growers, forcing them to either leave apples unharvested or pass the increased costs on to consumers. Meanwhile, diseases like apple scab and fire blight are spreading more rapidly due to changing climate conditions, further reducing the quality and quantity of apples. The average price of a pound of apples increased by 18% in 2024, and premium varieties like Honeycrisp and Fuji are becoming even more expensive. For the average American, this isn't just about losing a healthy snack, it's about losing a piece of cultural identity. Imagine a fall without apple cider, pies, or caramel-dipped treats at the local fair. If apples are a regular feature in your kitchen, now is the time to stock up on canned or preserved options, as fresh apples may become increasingly scarce and costly in the months ahead. The symbol of Americana is at risk of slipping away. 10. Cheese, beloved by millions of Americans for everything from burgers to mac and cheese, is teetering on the edge of becoming an unaffordable luxury. The crisis begins with milk production, the backbone of the cheese industry. In 2024, dairy farms across the U.S. saw a sharp decline in milk output due to extreme heat and drought conditions, particularly in Wisconsin and California, two of the largest cheese-producing states. Dairy cows, stressed by rising temperatures, are producing significantly less milk, leading to a 15% drop in cheese production nationwide. The problem doesn't stop there. Rising feed costs, labor shortages, and increasing energy expenses are making cheese production more expensive. Farmers are struggling to break even, and many smaller dairies are being forced to shut down entirely. The result? A sharp increase in cheese prices, with the cost of popular varieties like cheddar and mozzarella climbing by as much as 30% in 2024. Compounding this is soaring global demand for American cheese. Exports to Europe and Asia have surged, further tightening domestic supplies. Meanwhile, supply chain disruptions have slowed the delivery of essential ingredients and packaging materials, creating delays that have left grocery store shelves bare in some areas. 9. Sugar, a staple in American kitchens and the backbone of countless desserts, drinks, and processed foods, is facing an alarming shortage that could drastically impact your grocery bill and your sweet tooth. The primary issue lies in declining sugar crop yields. Key producers like Florida and Louisiana have experienced catastrophic weather events in 2024, including hurricanes and record-breaking heat waves, which slashed sugarcane and sugar beet harvests by nearly 25%. In Florida alone, sugarcane farmers reported losses amounting to over $1 billion, according to the USDA. Globally, the situation is no better. India and Brazil, the world's largest sugar producers, are grappling with similar climate-induced challenges, including severe droughts and erratic rainfall. These disruptions have tightened global supplies, driving up prices by nearly 30% in 2024. The average cost of sugar in the U.S. hit 70 cents per pound last year, the highest it's been in a decade. Compounding this crisis are logistical and geopolitical issues. Ongoing labor shortages in agricultural and processing sectors have slowed production, while export restrictions in countries like India are limiting the amount of sugar available on the global market. For American consumers, this means higher prices not just for sugar itself, but also for a wide range of products that rely on it, from soft drinks to baked goods. If you think sugar shortages are just an inconvenience, think again. This isn't just about your morning coffee or holiday baking. It's about the potential disappearance of everyday staples that define American food culture. Stocking up on sugar now, or considering alternative sweeteners, may be your only defense against the coming wave of shortages and price hikes. By next month, the sweetness you take for granted could turn into a bitter reminder of how quickly things can change. 8. Pork, the centerpiece of beloved dishes like bacon, pulled pork sandwiches, and holiday hams, is under threat from a crisis that could soon transform it from an affordable staple into an unattainable luxury. The problem begins with the relentless spread of African swine fever, ASF, a deadly disease that has decimated pig populations worldwide. In 2024, the virus swept through Asia and Europe, killing millions of pigs and sending shockwaves through the global pork supply chain. While the U.S. has largely managed to keep ASF at bay, fears of an outbreak remain high, and the costs of enhanced biosecurity measures have been passed down to consumers. Adding to this crisis are the skyrocketing costs of pig feed. Corn and soy, which account for the bulk of a pig's diet, saw price increases of over 30% in 2024 due to droughts in the Midwest and disruptions to grain exports from Ukraine. For many American farmers, these rising costs are unsustainable, leading to reduced herd sizes and, consequently, lower pork production. Meanwhile, the labor shortages that have plagued the agricultural sector are hitting pork processing plants especially hard. In some regions, plants are operating at only 60% capacity, creating bottlenecks that delay production and drive up prices. The average cost of bacon rose to a staggering $8.50 per pound in late 2024, with similar increases for other pork products. 7. Rice, a dietary staple for billions worldwide and a pantry essential in countless American households, is teetering on the edge of scarcity. The U.S., while not a top producer, relies heavily on imports from major rice-producing nations like India, Thailand, and Vietnam. But 2024 brought a series of disasters that slashed global rice production. India, the world's largest exporter, imposed export restrictions in July 2024 after erratic monsoons led to a 25% drop in its harvest. Similarly, Southeast Asia faced prolonged droughts, reducing rice yields by 15%, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. These shortages have triggered a domino effect on global markets, with rice prices soaring by over 50% in just 1 year. In the U.S., the cost of a 20-pound bag of rice has nearly doubled, hitting $25 in some areas. For low-income families, this price surge is particularly devastating, as rice has long been one of the most affordable and versatile food staples. Adding to the crisis are logistical bottlenecks. Ports in Asia are struggling to keep up with demand, while shipping costs have skyrocketed due to fuel price increases and labor shortages. In some cases, rice shipments are delayed by weeks, leaving American store shelves emptier than ever. 6. Corn, the cornerstone of the American agricultural system and a key ingredient in everything from tortillas to sodas, is facing a crisis that could upend the U.S. food industry. In 2024, extreme weather wreaked havoc on corn-growing regions like Iowa, Nebraska, and Illinois. Prolonged droughts and unprecedented heat waves slashed yields by 30%, according to the USDA. This marks one of the worst corn harvests in decades, with ripple effects that extend far beyond the dinner table. Corn is more than just a food. It's a key input in livestock feed, ethanol production, and countless processed foods. The reduced harvest has led to skyrocketing feed costs, driving up prices for meat, dairy, and eggs. Ethanol production, which consumes nearly 40% of U.S. corn, has also slowed, contributing to higher fuel prices. Global factors are compounding the crisis. Brazil and Argentina, major corn exporters, also faced poor harvests in 2024, tightening global supplies and driving up prices by nearly 50% compared to the previous year. In the U.S., the average price of cornmeal, a staple in many households, has surged to $1.20 per pound, a sharp increase from just 80 cents in 2023. 5. Cooking oils, from vegetable oil to olive oil, are in the midst of a global crisis that could leave American kitchens in a bind. The issue begins with a sharp decline in global production of key oil crops like soybeans, sunflowers, and olives. In 2024, record heat waves in Europe devastated olive groves in Spain and Italy, slashing olive oil production by 40%. Similarly, the war in Ukraine, a major exporter of sunflower oil, continues to disrupt global supplies. Meanwhile, soybean crops in the U.S. and Brazil suffered under drought conditions, reducing yields by 20% in 2024. The global ripple effect has been dramatic, with the average price of cooking oils rising by 35% last year. Olive oil, once a staple in health-conscious kitchens, now costs over $12 per liter in many U.S. grocery stores, a 50% increase from 2023. This crisis extends beyond price hikes. Shortages of cooking oils have already forced some manufacturers to reformulate products or reduce production altogether. Restaurants are also feeling the pinch, with many struggling to maintain menu prices as oil costs surge. For American households, this isn't just a matter of inconvenience. It's a looming threat to the way we cook and eat. If you rely on cooking oils for frying, baking, or salad dressings, now is the time to stock up. Experts warn that the shortages could deepen in 2025, leaving shelves emptier and prices higher than ever. 4. Beef, a symbol of American culinary culture, from backyard barbecues to steakhouse dinners, is facing a crisis that could make it unaffordable or unavailable for millions. The beef industry is grappling with a trifecta of challenges, starting with climate change. Prolonged droughts in key cattle-producing states like Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas have decimated grazing lands, forcing ranchers to sell off herds prematurely. In 2024, the U.S. cattle population dropped to its lowest level in 60 years, according to the USDA. Adding to the crisis are skyrocketing feed costs. Corn and soy, staples in cattle feed, have become significantly more expensive due to global grain shortages. For ranchers, this means higher costs and lower profitability, leading many to exit the industry altogether. As a result, beef production fell by 15% in 2024, driving up retail prices. The cost of ground beef, a staple for American families, now averages $7.50 per pound, with premium cuts like ribeye exceeding $20 per pound in many regions. The supply chain isn't immune either. Labor shortages in processing plants have slowed production, while transportation bottlenecks have made it harder to get beef to store shelves. These disruptions have left some supermarkets with bare meat cases and others rationing high-demand products. 3. Milk, a cornerstone of the American diet and a daily essential for millions, is facing a crisis that could soon leave grocery store shelves barren. The root of the problem lies in the dairy industry's battle against climate change. In 2024, extreme heat waves swept through dairy-producing states like California, Wisconsin, and Idaho, significantly reducing milk production. Heat stress affects cows, leading to lower milk yields and impacting the overall supply chain. The cost of feed for dairy cows has skyrocketed, with prices for hay, corn, and soybeans increasing by 30% in 2024 due to droughts and global grain shortages. This has left many small dairy farmers struggling to break even, forcing some to shutter their operations altogether. Adding to the problem are water shortages, particularly in the Southwest, where dairy farms are now paying premium prices for the water needed to sustain their herds. The impact on consumers is already visible. The average price for a gallon of milk in the U.S. rose to $5.50 in late 2024, a 20% increase from the previous year. Dairy shortages have also led to rising prices for other products like cheese, butter, and yogurt, creating a domino effect across the food industry. For American households, milk's potential disappearance is more than an inconvenience. It's a crisis. Milk isn't just a breakfast staple. It's an ingredient in countless recipes and a primary source of calcium and nutrition for children. If milk is a regular part of your family's diet, consider stocking up on shelf-stable or powdered milk alternatives now. Experts warn that 2025 could bring even higher prices and widespread shortages, turning this once ubiquitous staple into a rare and expensive commodity. 2. Canned vegetables, a long-standing pantry essential, are becoming increasingly scarce due to a cascade of agricultural and manufacturing challenges. Key crops like green beans, corn, and peas are facing declining yields as climate change wreaks havoc on farming regions across the U.S. and abroad. In 2024, California and the Midwest suffered unprecedented droughts and floods, reducing the harvest of key vegetables by up to 25%, according to USDA reports. The issue doesn't stop at the fields. Aluminum shortages, driven by increased demand and supply chain disruptions, have made it more expensive and difficult to produce cans. Aluminum prices rose by 40% in 2024, forcing manufacturers to cut back on production or increase prices. Labor shortages in food processing plants have only added to the delays, leaving many store shelves looking increasingly empty. For American households, the implications are stark. Canned vegetables have long been a reliable and affordable option for feeding families, especially during times of economic uncertainty. With prices for canned goods already up by 20% and more shortages expected, the days of stocking up on these versatile items may be numbered. If canned vegetables are a part of your emergency food supply or daily meals, experts urge you to act now. The future may bring not only higher prices but also a complete lack of availability. 1. Water, the most fundamental necessity for life, is facing a crisis in the United States that could make it a scarce commodity. The issue isn't just about bottled water, it's about the very infrastructure that delivers clean, drinkable water to homes across the country. In 2024, historic droughts gripped much of the Southwest, including states like California, Arizona, and Nevada, leaving reservoirs at critically low levels. Lake Mead and Lake Powell, which supply water to millions, hit record lows, sparking fears of widespread shortages. The crisis isn't limited to arid regions. Aging infrastructure across the U.S. has led to an increase in water main breaks and contamination issues. Cities like Jackson, Mississippi, and Flint, Michigan continue to struggle with providing safe drinking water, leaving residents dependent on expensive bottled water for basic needs. The demand for bottled water is surging as Americans prepare for potential disruptions, but production is struggling to keep up. Plastic shortages, rising fuel costs, and labor challenges have reduced bottling capacity, driving prices higher. In 2024, the average cost of a case of bottled water rose by 25%, with some regions experiencing even steeper increases due to supply constraints. The grocery shortages are real, and the time to act is now. Don't wait until it's too late to secure these essentials for your family. Stay informed, stay prepared, and protect what matters most. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs to know, and subscribe for more critical updates. Together, we can navigate these challenges and come out stronger. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.